and Congress should get the results of the Mueller probe. Let's go to my colleague Jessica Schneider with more. This is really significant because it was just, I think, last Thursday that CNN's reporting was that the White House legal team that's been beefed up, part of their aim is to argue that part of the Mueller report, when it comes out, should be constrained and withheld because of executive privilege. And this is the soon-to-be, if confirmed, Attorney General saying, no, the public should see it and Congress should see it.
Right, and those are all questions that William Barr will be facing tomorrow when he begins his Senate confirmation hearings. That'll start at 9:30 tomorrow morning. And in advance of that, we are getting a glimpse at his prepared remarks that he will be making before the committee. And as you mentioned, the William Barr, the nominee for Attorney General, really pledging here, Poppy, to let Robert Mueller continue his investigation and the Russia probe unimpeded. So he said this, he said that he believes that the public and Congress should be informed of the results of the special counsel's work. And he also talked about the special counsel. He said, I believe it is in the best interest of everyone, the president, Congress, and most importantly, the American people, that this matter be resolved by allowing the special counsel to complete his work. So William Barr there, the nominee for Attorney General to lead the Justice Department, pledging to let Robert Mueller finish his work and finish it. Who knows how long that could last. So William Barr saying that he will let Mueller proceed unimpeded. But of course, Poppy, we will see the senators on the Senate Judiciary Committee drill into William Barr, in particular because of his past comments, past op-eds and memos saying that he doesn't believe the president could have obstructed justice by firing James Comey. So that's going to be a key element of questioning as well. But we are getting his prepared remarks, and he says that the special counsel should proceed unimpeded. Poppy?
Yeah, which is key to the key questions from senators that he'll face tomorrow. Jessica, thank you very much. Jim?
The president a short time ago was asked by a reporter about Congressman Steve King's racist remarks. He gave this response.
I haven't been following it. I really haven't been following it.
Not following that story. This despite tweeting this weekend about Jeff Bezos' divorce, Elizabeth Warren's social media posts, gas prices. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy is taking a different route, saying that, quote, action will be taken at a meeting today with King. King complained to the New York Times last week that the words white nationalist and white supremacist had become unfairly offensive.
That language has no place in America. That is not the America I know, and it's most definitely not the party of Lincoln.
Should he be punished for it?
I have a scheduled meeting with him on Monday, and I will tell you this. I've watched on the other side that they do not take action when their members say something like this. Action will be taken. I'm having a serious conversation with Congressman Steve King on his future and role in this Republican Party.
Joining me now is CNN political commentator Doug Heye. He's a Republican strategist, former RNC communications director. Doug, thank you as always.
Thank you.
So the president there said he's not following the King story, despite the fact that the Republican minority leader is meeting with King today and is taking this very seriously. Do you find the president's answer credible?
I think he probably knows about it. Obviously, he has a lot on his plate. And, selfishly, I don't want Donald Trump commenting on Steve King too much because, frankly, we know that Donald Trump may go in the wrong direction on that and not help the situation at all.
I hear that point, Doug,
but
let's be fair. The president's got a lot on his plate, but he was going after Jeff Bezos a little bit with some schadenfreude, perhaps. He was tweeting about a whole lot of stuff this weekend, but no comment from the president of the United States on a sitting Republican congressman endorsing white nationalism. I mean, as a Republican, how does that make you feel?
Well, it's a terrible situation. And one of the things that we know, look at Charlottesville, is when Donald Trump wades into these waters, it is not a force of good. And so if Trump is not weighed in here, I would say, Jim, I think that's a positive step in a defining things very badly sense, because Trump weighs in a bad direction. It takes us into a further worse direction where that becomes the focus. Let's focus on what Kevin McCarthy is going to say to Steve King today and what action House Republicans can take against Steve King, which will be a good step forward, not just for House Republicans, but the party in general.
I just wonder, though, I mean, because we've seen this before. Isn't this a president who chooses not to comment on this because he doesn't want to upset a base?
Sure.
Because, I mean, he comments on, you and I both know, he comments on pretty much everything and doesn't hold back.
Sure, of course he does, and if he were able to weigh in here on a positive way, I would, and I think a lot of people would be very supportive of that. He's clearly not willing to do that or to anger his base at all. So what I'm focused on, and most folks on the Hill that I've talked to are focused on this Steve King situation, is what are House Republicans going to do? What are the substantive steps that they can take? What have they learned from the past where they've tried to remove Republican members from committees and had that blow up in their face, to be able to move forward and make sure that this is not just dealing with Steve King, but sending the signal to the party as a whole that this is unacceptable.
And that's a fair point. Credit where credit is due, because let's clearly separate the president's reaction to Kevin McCarthy there unequivocally, promising consequences. You saw Joni Ernst, fellow member of the Iowa delegation, unequivocally denouncing these remarks. It's been, fairly across the board. What would you consider a substantive penalty from the Republican Party? Is it just removing committee assignments? Should they run a candidate against him in 2020? But that's still a long time away.
It is a long time away. And one of the things that we've seen, not just with Senator Ernst, but a lot of folks on the ground in Iowa have distanced themselves from Steve King, will support somebody in a primary. There's somebody who's already announced that they're running. What the House can do substantively is a different measure. What the House can do, starting with Republicans, is hold him back from committee assignments. And the Constitution Subcommittee, which Steve King chaired in the last conference, now would be ranking member, is something that's very important to him. So it's not just a cosmetic change. That would be kind of hitting him where he lives. Then there's the issue of censuring Steve King, which would require the full House, also something a lot of Republicans would like to see, and more Republicans and conservatives are calling for. Expulsion seems to be a bridge too far at this point, but there are two very substantive things that they can do. They can remove his committee assignments and his subcommittee ranking position. They can censure him. And then there's the National Republican Congressional Committee, which typically does not weigh in primaries, but they can sure send a message to Steve King that they won't be supporting him, because incumbent retention is its own department at the NRCC. And if they don't want to retain Steve King because there are other Republicans who can come in, that'd be a good step forward as well.
That's a long time off. I just want to ask you before we go, as a Republican, are you concerned here that there are members of the party that this kind of message resonates with? Because you had the president retweeting this weekend, Pat Buchanan talking about militarizing the border, talking about how immigrants somehow dilute the blood of white America. I mean, this is not Stephen King in isolation here.
Yeah, look, Jim, my first job was in politics was in 1990 working for Jesse Helms. And those politics should be dead. And we see little vestiges of them here and there in the Republican Party that need to be stamped out. And the problem is, one, the president gives it credibility, but also as a Steve King pops up, or if we look at past Senate races like a Todd Akin or a Richard Murdoch, it casts all Republicans who are trying to do the right thing in a bad light. So when we pass something like, say, criminal justice reform, which was signed into law last month, Republicans aren't able to get the credit that they deserve on it. And obviously Democrats worked on it as well, because parts of our party always hold us back. These are not just appalling comments, but appalling attitudes. And the Republican Party cannot move forward, not just with minority voters, but also we talk so much about white suburban women, white mothers. They don't like this either. And we're sending a message to the broader public, not just minorities, though that's obviously important, that if we don't stamp this out, then it's somehow acceptable.
Well, listen, Doug Heye, thank you for taking the hard questions, and thank you for being so clear there. Still ahead, as the U.S. prepares to withdraw its troops, the president is threatening to devastate Turkey's economy if they attack the Kurds who fought alongside Americans in Syria. We're going to be live in Syria next.
I wouldn't believe the story if someone else were telling it, but it's true.
It was a miracle.
Something was just not